You know, they say blood is thicker than water, but nobody tells you that sometimes. Blood is just the thing that stains the carpet when your family decides to stab you in the back. I learned that lesson at 5:58 a.m. on Christmas. Eve. It started with a whisper that wasn't really a whisper. It was a sound of pure panic. Mama, wake up. I cracked one eye open. My bedroom was still pitch black, that heavy, freezing darkness you only get in a Chicago winter. My phone on the nightstand buzzed with a phantom notification, but I ignored it. I squinted at the digital clock. 5:58, a dot, my brain was still buffering, tasting like morning breath and regret. Wondering why I was awake before the sun, then I saw her. My 7-year-old daughter, Lily, was standing right beside my bed. Her pajamas were twisted, her hair looked like she'd slept in a blender, and her face broke my heart before I was even fully awake. Her cheeks were wet. Her little hands were clenched tight around a piece of lined paper, like it was a poisonous snake she was afraid to drop. Lily? I sat up, the mom instinct kicking in instantly. I scanned her face. Fever? No blood. No. Honey, what's wrong? Are you sick? She shook her head violently, like the words were stuck in her throat. She just thrust the paper at me. Her fingers were trembling. Look, she whispered. I took the paper. It was light, flimsy, but as soon as I turned on the bedside lamp and read the handwriting, it felt heavier than a brick. It was my mother's handwriting. Looping, cursive, distinct. It wasn't a long letter. It didn't need to be. We're off to Hawaii. Please move out by the time we're back. That was it. No, Merry Christmas. No, we love you. Not even a smiley face. Just a cold corporate eviction notice left for a child to find. I stared at the note. My brain refused to process it. I thought maybe this is a joke. Maybe I'm still dreaming. I found it on the kitchen table. Lily sniffed, her voice tiny and broken. I think it's from Grandma and Grandpa. Okay, I said, my voice sounding hollow in the cold room. Okay, let's breathe. Is Grandma mad at me? Lily asked, tears spilling over again. No. The word came out too sharp, too loud. I forced myself to soften. No, baby. This isn't about you. Never think that. But I didn't know that for sure. I swung my legs out of bed. The floor was freezing, seeping through my socks. Stay here, I told her gently. I'm going to go look. I walked out into the hallway. The silence in the house wasn't peaceful. It was hollow. Usually at 6 a.m., my dad, Robert, would be clinking coffee mugs. My mom, Brenda, would be watching the news. Today. Silence. I walked to the living room. Empty. I walked to the entryway. Yesterday, there had been 4 suitcases lined up by the door. My parents had been talking loudly about sunscreen and flight times, but they had been vague about who was going. Now, the space where the bag stood was blank. The coat rack was empty. No heavy winter coats. No Dad's stupid vacation hat. I ran to the window that faced the driveway. Usually, their SUV sat there like a royal guard dog. Gone. The driveway was empty. Fresh tire tracks cut through the light snow, leading away from the house. They left. They actually left. Without me. Without Lily. Panic started to rise in my chest, hot and suffocating. I did what anyone would do. I called. Mom first. Straight to voicemail. Dad next. Voicemail. I stood in the empty hallway, gripping my phone, feeling like the walls were closing in. I went back to the bedroom. Lily hadn't moved an inch. She looked at me with that painful, terrifying hope that only kids have. Are they here? She asked. I swallowed hard. Not right now, sweetie. Her face crumpled. Okay, I said, thinking fast. I'm going to call Aunt Chloe. Maybe she knows. I stepped back into the hall. I didn't want Lily to hear this part. I dialed my younger sister, Chloe. She's 21, the golden child, the princess of the family. It rang twice. Then she picked up. Yeah. Her voice was groggy, but in the background, I could hear the hum of an airport terminal. Chloe, I said, trying to keep my voice from shaking. Where are Mom and Dad? A pause. Then a sigh, sounding bored. Oh, you found the note. My stomach dropped. You knew? Obviously, Chloe said, sounding like she was explaining something to a toddler. We all decided. You all decided. I repeated. Decided to leave me and your 7-year-old niece homeless on Christmas Eve? Stop being dramatic, Elena, she snapped. You're 32. It's embarrassing that you still live with Mom and Dad anyway. I moved in to help you pay for college. I hissed, keeping my voice low so Lily wouldn't hear. Chloe laughed. A cold, short sound. That's not a real reason. Look, this trip is adults only. We thought it would be better this way. Less messy. You can move your stuff out while we're gone. It's cleaner. Let me talk to Mom, I demanded. Fine, I heard rustling, then the click of a speakerphone. Elena, my mother Brenda's voice came through, crisp and unbothered. Hi. I felt like I was losing my mind. Mom, is this real? You left a note? We wanted to avoid a scene, Brenda said, as if she was talking about returning a sweater, not abandoning her family. Grace found the note, didn't she? Well, she'll be fine. She's resilient. She's 7. I shouted, forgetting to be quiet. And you're 32. Chloe yelled from the background. We already paid for the trip, I said, my voice trembling with rage. I paid for my ticket. I paid for Lily's ticket. Oh, about that, Mom said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. We gave those seats away. There weren't enough rooms at the resort for everyone. Who? I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. Who's in my seat, Mom? Tessa, Mom said brightly. Chloe's best friend. She's practically family, Elena. She's been so stressed lately, we thought she deserved a break. The silence that followed was deafening. Tessa, my sister's college roommate. She was family, but me? My daughter? We were baggage to be left behind. So, I said, my voice deadly calm. Tessa is family. But Lily isn't? Don't be manipulative, Mom snapped. Just move out, Elena. Figure it out. You're smart. Bye. Click. They hung up. I stood there in the hallway, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. I looked at the dark screen. I didn't cry. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the phone through the window, but I didn't. Instead, a strange, cold clarity washed over me. They wanted me to be an adult. Fine. I would be the most efficient adult they had ever met. I walked back into the room. I hugged Lily, promised her everything would be okay, and then I picked up my phone again. I wasn't calling them back to beg. I opened my banking app. You see, my family forgot one tiny, crucial detail. For the last 2 years, I haven't just been living with them. I've been funding them, and as I looked at the transaction history, the flights to Hawaii, the hotel bookings, Chloe's tuition payments, I realized something. They were about to have a very, very bad Christmas. I tapped the screen. Select transaction, Hawaiian Airlines. Action. Dispute charge. This was just the beginning. To understand why I didn't beg, scream, or chase them to the airport, you have to understand one thing about my family. I was never really the daughter. I had an insurance policy. I wiped Lily's tears and settled her in front of the TV with a cartoon, telling her I had some son of business to handle. Then I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where they had left that cruel note, and I opened my laptop. See, I was an only child until I was 11. I was on the practice run. My parents, Brenda and Robert, were decent enough back then. They fed me, clothed me, but they weren't warm. They were functional Dot, then Chloe was born Dot. It was like they had been swapped out for different people. Suddenly, they discovered joy. They discovered patience. And most importantly, they discovered money. Everything I had been told we couldn't afford, Chloe got. Private lessons, brand name clothes, a car at 16. I wasn't jealous. I was conditioned. By the time I was 20, my role was set. I was the helper. The third adult. Elena, you understand, you're older. Elena, help your sister. Elena, pay for this. We're a little short this month. When I moved back in 2 years ago after my divorce, they spun it as a favor to me. Come home, save on rent. But the reality, they needed my salary to fund Chloe's dream life at a private university. I looked up the banking portal on my screen. My parents had played a dangerous game. They assumed that because I was quiet, I was weak. They assumed that because I lived under their roof, they owned my bank account. I clicked on the pending transactions tab. There it was. The Grand Willia Resort, Maui, $8,500, charged with my Visa signature card. Next to it, Hawaiian Airlines. 4 tickets. Another $4,200. They had used my card for points. They always said, "We'll write you a check later, Elena." They never did. But this time they had taken my card, booked a trip excluding me, and left me a move-out note. I didn't feel guilty. I felt surgical. I called the fraud department. "Yes," I told the representative, my voice steady. "I see a charge for a resort in Hawaii. I am currently in Chicago. I did not authorize this charge. I am in possession of my card, but the numbers were used without my permission. We'll freeze the card immediately and reverse the charges, ma'am," the agent said. "Thank you. Please block any further merchants from that location." Click step 1 complete. The hotel would likely let them check in because the authorization went through yesterday, but when they went to pay for dinner or check out, or when the hotel tried to run the daily hold, decline, decline, decline. But I wasn't done. The real monster was the university. I logged into the university parent portal. I had been paying Chloe's tuition, housing, and meal plan for 4 semesters. My parents couldn't qualify for the loans, so I had co-signed everything. I was the direct payer for the monthly installments. Usually, it auto-drafted $1,200 a month from my account. I went to payment methods. I saw my checking account listed as primary. I hit delete. Then I went to the upcoming semester enrollment. There was a pending document, spring semester loan renewal. It required a co-signer signature by January 5th or Chloe would be dropped from her classes. I stared at the sign here. Box. My mother's voice echoed in my head. "She's family. You're just the help." I closed the tab. I didn't decline it. I just didn't sign it. Let it sit in administrative purgatory. With the financial nuclear bomb armed and ticking, I turned to immediate survival. I wasn't going to stay in this house one more night. I called my best friend, Sarah. "Elena?" She answered on the first ring. "Merry Christmas Eve." "What's up?" "They left," I said. "They went to Hawaii and left me a note to move out. I have Lily. We have nowhere to go." Silence. Then the sound of car keys jingling. "Pack a bag," Sarah said, her voice dropping into what we call Mama Bear mode. "Bring Lily. Bring the presents. I'm coming to get you. You're staying with us." By noon, Lily was laughing, drinking hot cocoa with Sarah's kids in a house that smelled like cinnamon and actual love. We spent Christmas Day there. We ate too much, we watched movies, and for the first time in years, I didn't have to walk on eggshells. But on December 26th, while my family was presumably sipping Mai Tais in Maui, I got to work. I found an apartment. A modest 2-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. I signed the lease, paid the deposit with the money I wasn't spending on Chloe's tuition, and got the keys immediately. Then came the petty part. The part I'm most proud of. My parents had insisted I contribute to the household by upgrading their furniture. This couch hurts your father's back, Elena. Buy the leather sectional. $3,000. This TV is too small for the room, Elena. Get the 75-inch old. $2,500. We need a proper dining set for entertaining. $1,800. I hired movers. Everything? The guy asked, looking around the living room. If I have a receipt for it, it goes, I said. We stripped the house. The living room? Empty. The dining room? Empty. I even took the Dyson vacuum cleaner and the expensive coffee maker I had bought for Mom's birthday. By the time we left, the house looked like it had been robbed, except perfectly legally. It echoed. It was cold. It was exactly what they deserved. I moved into my new place that night. Lily sat on our couch, watching our TV, eating pizza. Is this our home now? She asked, looking around. Yes, baby, I said, kissing her forehead. No one can ever kick us out of here. I checked my phone. It had been quiet for 3 days. My parents were probably enjoying the initial grace period before the credit card company caught up to the hotel system. Then, my phone lit up. Incoming call. Mom. It was 9 p.m. in Chicago, which meant it was 5 p.m. in Hawaii. Checkout time? Or maybe dinner time? I stared at the screen. I almost didn't answer. I could have just let it burn. But I admit it, I wanted to hear it. I wanted to hear the moment the wave crashed down on them. I slid the bar to answer. Hello? Elena. My mother didn't speak. She screeched. What did you do? The waiter just cut up your father's card at the restaurant. He did it right in front of the other guests. It was humiliating. I leaned back on my couch, took a sip of wine, and smiled. Oh, I said. That sounds embarrassing. But I don't see how that's my problem. It's not your problem? My mother screeched through the phone. Elena, we're in a restaurant. The manager is threatening to call the police if we don't pay the bill. Unfreeze the card right now. I swirled the wine in my glass, watching the snow fall outside my new apartment window. I can't, Mom. Once a fraud claim is filed, the bank takes it very seriously. It's out of my hands. You filed it as fraud? She sounded breathless, like she'd been punched. Well, yes, I said, keeping my voice mild. I saw thousands of dollars of charges in a state I'm not in for a trip I wasn't invited to. What else would I call it? We're your parents. And I'm the person you evicted on Christmas Eve, I reminded her. But hey, you have Tessa there. She's family, right? Maybe she can chip in. I heard a muffled conversation on the other end. I heard my dad arguing with a waiter. I heard Chloe whining, Mom, this is so embarrassing. People are looking at us. Elena, Mom came back on the line, her voice dropping to a desperate hiss. We don't have enough available credit on our own cards for the hotel. The resort is asking for a new method of payment for the remaining 6 nights. If we don't give them one, they're going to evict us. That sounds stressful, I said. Adults-only trips can be expensive. Fix this. She screamed. I'm afraid I can't. I'm busy unpacking in my new apartment. You know, since I had to move out. Good luck, Mom. I hung up, and then I blocked her number for the night. I needed my beauty sleep. Apparently, the adults-only trip didn't last much longer. Without my credit card bankrolling the luxury suite and the fancy dinners, they couldn't afford to stay. They had to check out the next morning and fly home early on economy tickets they had to scramble to buy. They arrived back in Chicago 3 days later. I wasn't there to greet them, obviously, but I heard about it. My neighbor, Mrs. Gable, told me later that she saw them pull into the driveway looking exhausted and furious. They dragged their suitcases to the front door, unlocked it, and stepped inside. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It wasn't Mom this time. It was Dad. Where is the furniture? Robert barked. No, hello. No, how are you? Hello, Dad, I said cheerfully. I assume you're back early? How was Hawaii? Don't play games with me, Elena. The living room is bare. The TV is gone. The dining table gone. Did you get robbed? No, I said. I moved out. Remember the note? Please move out by the time we're back. I just followed instructions. We meant move your boxes. He shouted, not strip the house. I took what I paid for, I said simply. I have the receipts for the couch, the TV, the dining set, the coffee maker, and the rug. Since I'm not family enough to go on vacation, I figured my furniture wasn't family enough to stay in your house. You petty, ungrateful, careful, I cut him off. I also paid for the heating bill last month. You might want to check if that account is still active before you get too comfortable. It's going to be a cold night. He sputtered, incoherent with rage, and slammed the phone down. I thought that was the peak. I thought the furniture was the big finale. But I was wrong. The biggest blow was still waiting to land. The next morning, the university administrative offices reopened after the holiday break. I was at work, my actual job, the one that paid for everyone's lifestyle, when my phone buzzed. It was Chloe. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. Then a text. Pick up. It's an emergency. I finished my coffee and called her back on my lunch break. What? I answered. You were in my life? Chloe screamed. She was sobbing, hysterical. I can't register. I logged in to pick my classes for spring, and there's a hold on my account. A financial hold. Is there? I asked, feigning surprise. They said the tuition payment bounced. And the loan. The loan status says pending signature. Mom said you signed it weeks ago. Mom lied, I said calmly. Or maybe she just assumed I would, like I do everything else. But I lose my spot in the dorms if it's not paid by Friday. Chloe wailed. And I can't register for classes. I'll be kicked out, Elena. You have to sign it. Log in right now and sign it. No, I said. The silence on the line was heavy. Chloe stopped crying for a second, stunned. What? I'm not signing it, Chloe. I removed my card from the portal, and I'm not co-signing the loan renewal. But why? She sounded genuinely confused, like a child who had been told the sun decided not to rise. Because I'm moving on, I said. You guys made it very clear that I am a burden. Living with me is embarrassing, that I'm 32 and should stand on my own 2 feet. So I am. I'm standing on my own feet, in my own apartment, paying my own bills. Which means I can't afford yours anymore. You're punishing me because of the trip, she accused, her voice turning venomous. You're just jealous because Mom likes me better. Maybe, I admitted. Or maybe I just realized that if I'm not family enough to be included in Christmas, I'm certainly not family enough to pay $20,000 a year for your degree. Mom and Dad will sue you. For what? I laughed. Refusing to give you money? That's not a crime, Chloe. That's just life. Welcome to adulthood. You wanted to be treated like an adult. Here it is. Figured out. I hate you. She screamed. I know, I said softly. But at least I'm not paying for the privilege of being hated anymore. I hung up. I felt lighter. I felt like a 10-year weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I went back to work, actually humming, but a cornered animal is dangerous. And my family? They were cornered. They had no furniture, a mountain of travel debt, and a daughter about to drop out of college. That evening, I heard a pounding on my apartment door. I looked through the peephole. They were all there. Mom, Dad, and Chloe. They looked disheveled, frantic, and furious. They hadn't come to apologize. They had come to force me to fix it. I locked the deadbolt. I checked the safety chain. Then I spoke through the door. Go away. Open this door, Jessica. Mom screamed, force of habit. She used my middle name when she was mad. Open this door right now. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about, I yelled back. You are going to sign that loan, Dad shouted, pounding his fist on the wood. And you are going to write us a check for the furniture you stole. I have the receipts, I yelled, and I have a cell phone in my hand with 911 dialed. You have 10 seconds to get off my porch before I press call. You wouldn't, Chloe sneered. I pressed the call button, just so the operator could hear the background noise, but didn't speak yet. 5 seconds. I shouted. They hesitated. They looked at each other. They realized that the daughter who used to say yes to everything, she didn't exist anymore. They left. It took them a solid minute of staring at my locked door, listening to the faint voice of the 911 operator on my speakerphone asking, "Caller, do you have an emergency?" My father spat something at the door, a curse word I won't repeat, and then they turned around. I watched through the peephole as they marched back to their car, defeated. Chloe was crying again, that angry, entitled cry of someone who realizes the world doesn't actually revolve around them. I hung up the phone before dispatch sent a car. I didn't want the police involved if I could help it. I just wanted them gone. I turned around. Lily was standing in the hallway of our new apartment. She was holding her stuffed rabbit, watching me with wide eyes. Are they mad at us? She whispered. I walked over, knelt down, and looked her right in the eye. Yes, baby. They are mad because we left? No, I said, smoothing her hair. They're mad because we stopped letting them be mean to us. And sometimes people get very angry when they can't use you anymore. But that is not your fault. We are safe here. This door stays locked. She hugged me then. A tight, desperate little hug. And for the first time in months, I felt her shoulders relax. The silence that followed in the next few weeks was heavy, but it wasn't lonely. It was the silence of a wound finally starting to heal. I didn't hear from them for 2 months. No texts, no calls. I assumed they were drowning in the mess they had created, and I was right. See, here is the thing about financial abuse. It works like a house of cards. My parents looked successful. They had a big house, nice cars, and vacations. But it was all propped up by my steady income, my credit score, and my willingness to cover the gaps. When I pulled my card, the house of cards didn't just wobble. It collapsed. I found out the details through the grapevine. My friend Sarah runs into Tessa, the family friend who took my seat on the plane at the gym. Apparently, without my tuition payments and the cosign loan, Chloe couldn't register for the spring semester. The university didn't care about her tears. They didn't care that she was special. They just cared that the balance was 0. She had to drop out. Sarah told me Chloe is currently living at home, working at a retail store at the mall, the same kind of job she used to make fun of me for having in college. Karma, as they say, has a wicked sense of humor, and my parents? Well, that brings us to the final phone call. It happened last week. I saw my father's number pop up. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the better of me. I wanted to know if they had learned anything. Hello? I answered. Elena, my dad's voice was different this time. It wasn't angry. It was old, tired, beaten. We need to talk. I'm listening, I said. The bank is threatening to foreclose on the house, he said. The words came out in a rush, like he was ashamed to say them. With the unexpected costs of the trip and replacing the furniture, And now we have to pay Chloe's student loans since she's not in school anymore. He trailed off. I'm sorry to hear that, I said politely. But I don't see what this has to do with me. We need to refinance, he said, to lower the payments. But our credit took a hit because of the credit card dispute you filed. We can't qualify for a good rate alone. I knew exactly where this was going. We need a co-signer, he whispered. Just for the refinance. If you sign, we can keep the house. It's your childhood home, Elena. I closed my eyes. I thought about that house. I thought about the cold kitchen where Lily found the note. I thought about the empty driveway on Christmas morning. I thought about the way they looked at me, not as a daughter, but as a wallet with legs. Dad, I said softly. Yes? Hope crept into his voice. You told me to move out. You told me to live my own life. You told me to stop being embarrassing. Elena, please. We were stressed. We didn't mean it. Yes, you did, I said. And here's the truth. I can't sign for you. Not because I'm angry, but because I have a daughter to take care of. My credit, my money, my energy, it all belongs to Lily now. I can't afford to carry 3 other adults on my back anymore. You're going to let us lose the house? He choked out. I'm not letting you do anything, I said. You did this. You booked the trip. You wrote the note. You chose this. I'm just watching. If you hang up, you are no longer my daughter, he threatened, his voice rising, trying one last time to use the old guilt. Robert, I said, using his first name for the first time in my life. I stopped being your daughter the moment you left my child homeless on Christmas. I'm just the stranger who used to pay your bills. I hung up. I haven't heard from them since last night. Lily and I were sitting on our new couch, which is actually a secondhand one I found on the marketplace. And it's 10 times more comfortable than the leather monstrosity my parents made me buy. We were eating popcorn and watching a movie. Lily laughed at something on the screen, a loud belly laugh that shook her whole body. She looked at me, her eyes bright and happy. Mom? She said, yeah, Bug? This is the best home ever. I smiled and I felt a tear roll down my cheek. Not a sad tear. A happy one. Yeah, I said. It really is. My parents might have their pride. They might have their adults-only memories. But they don't have this. They don't have peace. And they don't have us, so I have to ask. Looking back at everything, did I go too far? Should I have signed the loan to save their house? Or did they get exactly what they ordered? Let me know what you would have done in the comments below. And if you think I did the right thing, hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for listening.